First off, Neema, thank you, man. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, I have a lot of admiration for CBX. They, you guys constantly crush it, and
Thank you, man.
the numbers you guys put up are just fucking insane. It's unreal, honestly. I think most people don't know. You know, that's another thing that really we'll get into, but I think most people don't know.
Thank you, man. That's very nice and humbling, and we got mad respect for what you guys have been doing for a minute over there at Alien Labs and Connected, and thank you for supporting us always.
Yeah, for sure, bro. We carry you guys in all our stores. We fucking, we love you.
100p.
I'm really excited to learn more about the brand. That's another thing. Like, I don't really know much about it. I feel like we existed at times on, like, the polar opposite spectrums of LA where, like, those at the beginning, those were really, like, islands. They may as well have been, like, NorCal and LA, they just didn't cross paths a lot, especially, like, and I mean, when I say beginning, I mean, like, in the, late 90s and the early 2000s and shit. But again, thank you for joining me. This is the final talk of mine for the weekend. I'm an introvert. I'm burnt the fuck out, but I've been looking forward to this all day, like Christmas. So it's been keeping me going for sure. I've seen a lot of you. What? That doesn't even make sense. Sorry. The TED Talks series has people been loving it. So again, just thank you guys for the support. Anyway, let's go.
And thank you for having me, Ted.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate you, dude.
Tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Santa Monica, born and raised. I think, obviously beach town, kind of that hippie-ish granola vibe.
For sure.
A lot of fools smoking weed, a lot of homies' parents smoking weed, even teachers smoking weed, things like that. So when I was growing up, I was really, as a young tyke, skating, surfing, and a lot of my older homies were like small closet grow ops, selling weed, that kind of stuff. I got
skate
like exposed to it early.
So
yeah,
synonymous with weed culture.
And you know how it is. Like, so I kind of got into it selling to when I was in high school. When I was 15, I started selling weed to kind of have my own supply and not have to pay as much for it. And then
I love
that kind of snowballed. And to be honest with you, my start into ganj was as a smoker and really someone who more moved packs. Even when I went to school, I was like, I joined the frat house so I could like really get it popping with moving packs and all that. And speaking like about your NorCal, SoCal thing that you touched on, for the longest, it was a good hustle if you were from SoCal and you had homies that grew and were popping off, just to drive up to NorCal, cop shit, bring it back down,
Yeah, definitely. That was the move.
And so before like OT cats started going directly to NorCal, that was kind of my hustle for a while. And then I kind of was the financier for some home operations. They all took L's.
Of course, as they do.
Yeah. I took over the last one, kind of like, I can't let this thing go bad.
My last money.
Yeah, and that's how I got into growing tree.
That's awesome, man. Really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
When did you smoke weed for the first time?
Probably when I was 15. To be honest, I resisted smoking weed for a while when a lot of my homies were burning it down. But,
Why?
Just because, like, I come from a Middle Eastern family and my parents are super strict, and like where they come from, like if you get caught with weed, like they kill your ass and
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's like really gnarly shit, So, but went on a snowboarding trip with the homies. They rolled up a Swisher, smoked a blunt for my first time, got super faded, munchies, all that, and kind of just fell in love with it from there.
Yeah, man, that's pretty similar to my story. I first smoked in 7th grade, but I didn't go crazy on it until I would still smoke like occasionally with my friends and shit, but I didn't go crazy on it until sophomore year. I went, my friend's brother took us to school every morning, and we'd get high in the car, and I remember very vividly, like, sophomore
7th
year.
grade's pretty gangster.
Yeah, but 10th grade. Yeah, I mean, I smoked some fucking Mexican brick weed with my homies on the side yard for my adult friend.
Yeah,
everyone has an adult friend.
Yeah.
But when my sophomore year, my first class was biology, and I went in and I was like, oh, this motherfucker knows I'm high and he doesn't care. So I was like, sick. I'm gonna do this every day. And my mom, I always thought my mom knew, But when I turned 26, we were at like a birthday party or something for me, and I told her, I was like, "Yeah, I came home high from school every day. Like, what the fuck?" And she just started crying, like she had no idea that I was high. I thought for sure she knew.
The moms with the like, your car smells like a skunk. What are you
Yeah,
even doing?
yeah. She called it dope too.
Yeah.
She said, "Are you loaded? Are you smoking dope?" Like, come on, mom.
I would get marijuana.
Yeah, that's even better though. Do you smoke weed daily now? Are you a daily user, or what's your relationship?
Do. Yeah. I've been smoking like a couple grams a day for
Nice.
pretty much the last 24 years.
That's awesome.
I've taken a couple tolerance breaks. I also smoke hash. I think that's kind of one of the waves of frequency that we have in common with you guys that we really respect. Not to throw shade at anybody out in the field, but I personally don't feel like you can create new hot weed products and strains unless you're a deep user
I
of
agree.
the plant.
It's a very, very well said. Because you have to know.
Yeah.
So I think it was. I was talking with someone and they said, like, what do you think about the fact that companies have to drop 6 strains per year to like keep going? And I'm like, dude, I could think of like 3 companies that can drop 6 strains a year and be authentic about it. Yeah, anyone can pop seeds
Yep.
and say this is good, whatever what they think. But like the fact of the matter is, not many companies know how to do that. Because they aren't like super deep users.
100%.
I smoke mostly hash, but yeah, of course we go through. We pop 5,000 seeds a year, 2,500 different phenos I smoke, and then socially, like when I'm out here, I usually am smoking blunts. What kind of how do you smoke?
My main thing is rolling up J's.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like a large part of what I smoke is the hunts. So
Yeah,
like,
me too, for sure.
Like you were saying, it's sometimes it can fucking be like a chore because
It
there's
is 100%
so
a
many,
chore.
and
It's
fools
so
don't
funny when people don't
understand
that, man. They
You know what I'm
really
saying?
don't.
Like fools are like, I'll go on like a road trip and bring a bag with like 18 Ziplocs
Yes.
all labeled with like 6 grams in them, and motherfuckers are like, you're gonna smoke all of that? I'm like, yeah, I gots to. Yeah.
Yeah, our product manager girl, she sends email twice a week, Monday and Friday. Like, hey, what's up with your guys', for me and Caleb, what's up with your guys' results? Don't forget
Yeah.
they're due this day. And I'm like, shit, it actually gets hard. Like, you can't. It's a lot, dude. We get about 50 a month essentially of new shit that we select after the initial what we call phase 0.
Word.
So phase 1 is we select about 32 every time we do our hunt. That's about as much space as we have.
Got it.
And then phase 1 will come like that, about 50 a month. And yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a fucking lot to smoke through. I actually just hired a bunch of my homies that I really trust to help me. We're calling it the Sensory Network. So they're each going to get the same boxes that I get, so they can smoke through them and identify some ones that maybe I missed, because I've been missing shit. It's impossible not to when that many are coming through that you have to smoke, and you have to be the day-to-day guy at the top.
It's truly a job, and I think also it's the scale that puts the pressure in there for
Definitely.
continuing to hunt. Back in the day, you got like 100 lights. You don't need to have this crazy flavor lineup, but as you scale up, 500, 1,000 lights, 1,500 lights, now you have to have a lot of variety to fill all that canopy.
That's right.
And keep it churning and all that stuff. So I think for us, we kind of keep the hunts going. We try to do pollination projects like once every 3 years on like a
Nice.
big time mega scale, create like 296 crosses, 42,000 seeds. And then for the years to come, we'll just kind of hunt through those. We have like a rule of a minimum of hunting at least 100 seeds of any cross.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And we have 2 facilities that are across the street from each other that both have R&D areas. So we run in each of those facilities about 600 to 800 seed hunts at the same time, churning 4 times a year, 8 hunts a year. And out of that, we try to get like anywhere from 4 to 10 solid ones per hunt, but sometimes is luck of the draw. It doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, I don't hit good numbers with that. I'm super picky, but
Yeah.
I know you guys are too. I just like I get in my own head about it a little bit sometimes.
Me
I think
too.
when there's phenos that anyone would keep. That's what I always tell myself. But breeding really is about what you throw away more than it is about what you keep. So really being selective about what makes it to the menu is, I think, how both of our brands have really, succeeded really well. So that's awesome. I did not know that that you guys had such an extensive breeding program. I love to hear it. When did CBX launch and where?
So we launched back in 2014 in Cali. And, back then when we launched, we didn't have a tremendous amount of like marketing and branding.
Yeah.
We were putting like stickers on the bottom of turkey
That's how it
bags
all was,
and like serving them out
Back
there.
then,
Yeah,
shit, that was
exactly.
early,
Yeah,
bro.
dude, So, but, I think had a couple L's, got really tired of looking over our shoulder, I think, as a crew.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, I think a little bit of the origin story gets confusing of, like, a lot of people think we got started in Nevada.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's why we went to Nevada, because Cali
okay,
wasn't
okay.
legal yet. They were doing the licensing thing. And so that's kind of our opportunity where we were like, okay, look, we can do it big time. We won't have to look over our shoulders. We can really get the brand popping. Nevada has tourism from all over the country and stuff like that.
Yep.
And, I think that's kind of one of the key evolutionary phases for us as a brand, where we kind of like, we were duffel bag boys, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you got to package all that and sell it.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
I can relate.
Yeah, so we learned a lot in that experience, and I think that's kind of what got us going in the direction of like, really thinking about our product line, what we're going to offer, how we're going to do it, how we're going to keep it fresh, all that stuff. And, fast forward, thankfully, amazing team, a lot of continuity, a lot of my good friends working for the squad, all of that, all churning in the right direction on one string, and now we're here today.
Where are you guys still in Nevada or just California?
We're still in Nevada under a licensing agreement, but we don't run that facility anymore.
Yeah.
I think you heard about this story, and basically we were approached early on by one of the bigger multi-state operators.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, so we were approached early on by one of the bigger multi-state operators. Typical shit that happens in this space.
Of course,
right?
we've been there.
The talent does all the work, gets the brand to the mountaintop. All of a sudden, the investor partners think, they're the man.
Yes,
they're trying to do deals.
for
They're trying to
sure.
drum stuff up. And so, at the time, we weren't trying to lose control or autonomy.
Yeah.
We wanted to set up headquarters in multiple states. So we kind of turned the deal down and had to work something out before it got really messy. And so we had to do a licensing deal for what was the genetics that were in that facility and stuff like that. But thankfully, my best friend from 11 years old that we used to like, my boy Iran, that we used to like get faded as hell, like you were saying, like he'd pick me up every day. We would like ditch school and just like smoke weed all fucking evening and shit. Once it went legal in Cali, he quickly jumped in. We partnered up. He's been the biggest supporter in the game, literally powers all of our ideas without a blink of an eye.
Sick.
And so out of the fucked up partnership, we learned our lesson, and now we have like the right killer team all together.
I love that. Yeah, I don't think that anyone makes it like really successfully without taking some licks like that.
I would agree.
I don't know anyone that I would consider like really successful in this game that has had no hiccups or had no bad partners. Especially bad partners is like so common. It's insane. How'd you come up with the name?
Cannabis, antibiotics.
Oh, okay. I love it.
Cannabiotics.
It's that simple, but it's not though.
Yeah, and at the time it was medical, so kind of made sense. And as it went rec, like, to be frank, that was kind of the evolution to the CBX. It just didn't really, we're unfortunately.
Oh, are you not cannabiotics?
We're still cannabiotics.
Okay.
But that's how we kind of came with the abbreviated version because. The unfortunate thing is every market starts as medical and then pitter-patters to rec. And then once it goes rec, unfortunately, the medical just disappears.
Yes. The crazy thing about that is they're all rec markets are medical. but
Yeah.
like not. It's a weird distinction that cannabis definitely is a healing plant. Like no matter what, if you think you don't have things, whatever, or if you do, like you get something out of it,
100.
relaxation, stress relief, whatever it is. So it's a true medical plant to me. What do you think you'd be doing if CBX didn't pan out?
You know, probably being a funny enough an attorney. So
Yeah, I could see that.
having a Middle Eastern parents, I had to do the double life thing. So I was like selling weed to like pre-ICO dispensaries, had the grow ops, and then at the same time, they were like putting so much pressure on me, like, you got to handle your school shit. I went to USC for undergrad. When I was done, I made the mistake of getting a front job at my buddy's mom's insurance law firm. And so then they were pressuring me, oh, you should go to law school, this, and that. I ended up doing the JD thing, never practiced a day in my life, knew when I got out of school I was going to write license applications and do the weed brand thing, all of that.
That background makes it a lot easier.
That's kind of like, luckily how we've been able to kind of pivot into black market, gray area to legal, and kind of keep everything really
Yeah,
churning.
I mean, if you know that part of the business, you got a great step ahead. Most people have to have attorneys themselves, and I'm sure you do, but like, especially when you start out, that like those things that's where a big part of the cost is.
And it sucks because you never know like how much they're really vested in your cause when you have to hire someone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. Early on, it was just became apparent that nobody really cares about anything as much as you, especially if they don't own it. So that's 100%. A good point. So for those that don't know, CBX is constantly the #1 cannabis flower brand in California. Like that is a huge feat. So let's give this guy a round of applause for that.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you guys, and that's very humbling and respectful. And thank you guys.
And their strain Cereal Milk is basically constantly the #1 cannabis strain in the state as well. I don't know too much about it, so will you tell us about how was that created? Did you guys create it, or like what's the story behind Cereal Milk?
Yeah, so the Cereal Milk came out of the strawberry lemonade Thin Mint breed round.
Oh well, I love Thin Mint.
Right. So and obviously Thin Mint cookies. We were fortunate enough to have an original clone only cut.
Yep.
And as I'm sure you know, it's a great breeder.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So we bred the strawberry lemonade Thin Mint Pheno number 15.
How many did you pop?
We popped about 44 seeds in that round.
Wow.
We didn't have the full 100 because the germination didn't just produce a lot of seeds.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And so it was kind of one of those where we put a bunch of random ones in to kind of kill shit that was low. And I think just, that one, I think every state has like their connoisseur base has like a preference.
Yeah.
And I think for this state, the Cereal Milk has that super ultra dense kind of like blizzard, almost covered in sugar frost factor that a lot of fools fuck with in Cali.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's churned its popularity,
People are just now starting, and not even like, the 1% of smokers are just now starting to be like, okay, ugly weed is better.
Yeah.
And that will continue, but 99% of the smokers in California, they want that pretty weed. And they don't yet know that they want all these other things, but they will, and it's slowly really changing for the better, I think. More connoisseurs is better for brands like us, where, that's kind of the market that we serve. When you saw the Cereal Milk Pheno, what was it? What Pheno was it?
Pheno number 15.
Was it, did you know right away, or was there a few that were fire?
To be honest with you, we kind of knew right away just based off of its structure and its stack.
Yeah.
Right? That was a really promising plant. That particular girl, when we hunt genetics, we try to take a strain log when we find a promising pheno.
Yeah.
And we'll start notating through the cycle, like, various things about its anatomy, its stack, how it responds to manipulation in the canopy, how thirsty it is, root zone development, all that stuff. And the Cereal Milk plant, that number 15, was checking a lot of those boxes in action. And then when it was finishing off, it was just so drippy and resinous.
Yeah, I
and
love
like,
plants like that.
it was like it was like beaming sparkly almost amongst the rest of the girls.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was hoping there was another pheno and you'd give it to me. Does it surprise you that how well that strain does though? Like that's pretty fucking crazy, right?
It does surprise me, you know, and I think in general, we try to grow a little bit of everything for everybody, but we also can, like, you know, recognize when things like cereal milk, L'Orange, White
Yeah,
Walker
L'Orange is another one.
OG are like super popular amongst the base, and we lean into those things, you know?
You do, so you'll like when you see sales spiking, you'll like dedicate more canopy to it and just try and keep it in stock everywhere. And
Exactly. And I think, you know, another thing that we do that we got respect for you guys that we know you guys do is we never grow genetics based off of maturity time.
yeah, for sure.
That like doesn't even play into, because once you have a certain amount of lights, you know, it's almost like you want to have shit spaced out.
Oh,
with various
definitely. Fucking,
maturities,
we do
you know what I'm saying?
every those black jars we get. They'll be oftentimes, especially if we know that it's going to be a selection, there'll be 3 different harvest dates. We'll run it. We'll chop it early. We'll chop it what we would just call like the normal length, and then we'll let it go long too, so that we can evaluate those different stages and see what comes out. Like with Zangria, you know,
Love that name.
I called up my boy Scott from Wizard Trees. I'm like, how long do you let Zangria go for? And he told me, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna cut it early because I feel like that'll give it a little more of the Skittles terp. And yeah, ours is very different because we cut like 8 days earlier than he does, and even 2-3 days can have such an insane difference on the terp profile.
Totally. And the effect too, you know. I think one of the things that we're kind of now super psyched on is we're playing with that when it comes to harvesting the best biomass for hash.
Yeah, definitely, we do the same.
You know what I'm saying? Because like,
Yep.
I know you feel this, and I always feel the same way. It's like I hear this just like one sentence thing that like, oh, the best input comes from living soil, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but why? You know?
It
Explain
literally
to me why.
scientifically it makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
The only thing that I can think of, and I tell, because we got we got real scientists on our team. Like we have a PhD from Cornell, and we also have,
Dope.
VP of cultivation, like studied in Japan, very smart, like super, really plant scientist, and I've asked him tons of times, hey, does a plant know difference between organics and synthetics? No.
Yep.
How could they? But there is the thing that organics can give the plant what it wants easier if you are nailing your organics. So that plant can call for it, and the mycorrhizae in that roots will bring it to exactly where it needs it. But if you're nailing it as a synthetic grower, your plant is getting that anyway.
100%. And you're playing like the God factor. So
Yeah.
once it gets into the groove, you might be able to juice up certain elements.
Definitely.
You know?
A little more stress, so you get, better resin content, higher THC, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
And that's the part about growing in soil that I don't see like the exact concrete scientific attachment.
There is no
Yeah.
concrete science behind it. For food, I get it a little more because what they're saying is, we want those organic elements inside of us. So regardless of what the plant knows it or understands that it is a different input.
And I also think like subconsciously, people in their minds, when something is grown in soil, they just think that it's like more organic,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
enriched or craftier, etc.
And I think a lot of people think of, and maybe they don't, and now they will, hopefully. When you go to a grocery store and you buy a tomato versus when you go to the farmer's market and buy a tomato, absolutely the farmer's market tomato tastes better. No doubt about it.
Yep.
Farmer's market strawberries taste way better. But it's not because that it's grown at a farm or because that it's organic. It's because they are growing for that intent, while the vegetables and all the things at the supermarket are growing for yield. Just like, tons of MSOs, they're growing for yield. They're growing for, structure. They're growing for beauty. They're not growing for flavor. They're
Yep.
growing for the opposite things of that. So, it's super interesting. The synthetic organic debate will rage on until the end of time. But as far as science is concerned, it's the same thing.
Yep.
So what are some of your favorite strains that you do not grow or are not in your lineup?
Some of the strains that I really enjoy that we don't grow, generally I like to switch it up, but I do like some of the candy varieties out there, the Skittles varieties,
Yeah,
things
Skittles
like
is good.
that. We're from SoCal, so we grew up really on Kush.
Yep.
And a lot of our lineup is, Kush and Kush hybrids.
Yeah.
So we don't get a lot of that crazy, Skittlesy purple stuff all the time growing up.
Yeah.
And I think, those are the types of flavors that when I see the homies growing and things like that, I do enjoy trying
you're
them
like,
out
let
and
me
shit
get some
like
of
that.
that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in general, there's like a new niche of connoisseur out there where I feel like tolerance has gotten to such a level that they're smoking for flavor.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big emerging thing. They're smoking for flavor. That's why a lot of these strains they don't really affect you as strong or at the same way as like OGs do. Like the lemon cherries, the candies, the Skittles. Those aren't really like stoned strains that are going to get you stoned. They're strains that you smoke for flavor. You
Yep.
can smoke them all day, and that's not always the case. But in general, I think a lot of the flavor stuff just doesn't pack the punch that the OGs and the kind of even the like some of the jacks and shit like that.
I would agree. I'm trying to get that pressure,
I want to get stoned
Yeah.
as fuck. I want to be on drugs.
Forehead bead
I
sweat
love
type
weed,
shit.
but like let me feel like a drug.
Yeah, like head change.
Yeah, I want like a fucking drip, an IV drip, not a. So, all right. How many lights do you have in total?
We have currently 1,442 lights,
Wow, nice.
including our R&D. So it's really nice, except when you want to go on vacation.
Oh shit.
They never tell you when you get into growing tree that you got to be around all the time.
Yeah. There's no,
Yeah.
especially if you're, the grower and shit.
Yeah.
We are
And-
lucky to have a team that fucking crushes. They go state to state. I don't spend nearly as much time in the grow, as I used to. I get in there a couple days a week, and then once a month I go to Arizona, or if we're dropping like a strain, maybe I'll go twice a month. And I try to go to Florida twice a quarter to to check out all the grows.
That's
but
dope.
The
really
teams,
dope.
man, we would not be here without the teams. We wouldn't be here without the help of Connected. So I think creating a team is just huge. Do you have how many employees do you have?
Very critical. Our tribe has grown in the expansion year, and I think, like you were touching on, we are really, really fortunate to have some really solid continuity.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on our cultivation team and girls on our cultivation team have been working with me for, 10, 12, 13, 8 years, right? And I think that kind of carries forward in our academy because those people are spread through both facilities, veg, flower,
Yeah.
Curing, drying, all that, and passing the craft along. And, I think these days, and for a while now, I'm really fortunate. I've just been the coach, and we have such a kick-ass dream team kind of just continuously churning out super heaters. But at the same time, I think growing weed on the surface can look repetitive, but for me, I've never found it as repetitive. Like every strain is kind of like a different puzzle to crack, and that's kind of what keeps me more in the grow room than usual.
Yeah, I love that. For me, it's the R&D. All the cool shit they're doing with the science, and just we have 4 rooms that are right next to each other, and we'll use 2 of them. Each 2 sets we'll use to track a different factor, whatever it is, irrigation,
Very lit.
temperature, blah blah. That keeps me super super interested. And then of course the breeding. We have a pretty extensive breeding program. We do it a little bit differently than you guys. So we'll do. We just have an insane vault of pollen. We'll fill up our room with females. We separate each branch. We like 3, so if there's 5, we'll kind of just chop the others off. We separate them into 3s, and we'll pollinate each branch with
Very
a
dope.
different strain. And that's so just we can get the jump on shit. Like if something really hits, we already have seeds of it, in the slammer, and we can just start diving into there.
Hunt it faster, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So beyond that, what do you guys? Are you guys cocoa? Are you Rockwool or cocoa?
Cocoa. So I've grown in pretty much every medium.
Yeah.
Rockwool, Mapito, Hydroton clay rocks, outdoor soil. I've kind of myself and the squad, we've just settled on the cocoa. It seems to be
It's the
kind of
best.
like a chill mix between both worlds where
Yeah, that's how I feel.
you can control the synthetics and you can still get the biosphere going a little bit too.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. I think the highs are different too. Like I think earthy gives you more of like a prolonged high that isn't as peaky. The rock wool really makes me. I get super stoned for like 20 minutes, if that, and I drop off. I'm not stoned anymore. And then with cocoa, it's like a nice in between.
And I also always noticed and was like really interested in me is like how the aesthetic nug turns out in the different mediums.
Oh,
like,
me too.
Dude,
That's so crazy.
I used to love growing when I first started, even though it was such a fucking labor pain in the ass, wash the rocks in between rounds in the bathtubs, all
Yeah.
this bullshit. But the hues of green that would come from growing in hydroton rocks and
Is it
buckets,
insane?
it was insane. It was like
We never did that.
neon and crazy lime, crazy green shit. Really, really, really dope looking.
Up in NorCal, it was always. I didn't know too many people that grew rock wool at all. It was always soil. Well, specifically, we would use Sunshine Mix Number 4, and which is like it's a soil, but it doesn't. It's soilless. You know, it's a soilless medium.
Yeah.
And then most people switched to cocoa, and then we kind of stayed on that. So I didn't get to experiment with like Hydroton or the fucking DWC buckets or
Yeah.
anything like that. I think it's super interesting though.
It was
but I
crazy.
think cocoa is the best though.
I would agree
Or
with you. Yeah.
soil.
Yeah, I
but
would
soil
agree.
just you can't really get the yields. Like it's just it's fire, but commercially,
And
it's
also,
tougher.
you want to be able to feed them more.
Yeah, definitely. You get
Yeah.
a bigger steer your crops. And so how do you think about selecting strains? Like when you're going through your phenos, what's your checklist?
So I think, one of the things I always try to do is I look at the bag or the jar that the bud is in right away. I try to see if is there a crystal factor on
Yeah.
the bag already, things like that. I also try to assess, I think the beautiful thing about ganj is it's so palatable in many forms, right?
Yep.
So I try to look at the aesthetic kind of color of the bud, like the hues of the green of the calyx against the sugar leaves and the hairs, and is it creating that dichotomy that makes it more attractive,
Yeah, the
things like
crazy
that.
looks, yeah.
And then obviously the structure.
Yeah.
You can't have it be too Swahili and airy and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's not going
It's
to
fine.
work,
I call that emerald cup bait.
Exactly. And then, right away, I try to see if even before I open the bag, I can get a whiff.
Yeah,
Open
I
the
love
bag.
That.
It's got to stink up. Mandatory. I mean, especially now with a lot of legal states, one of the only things you can do is like smell the bud.
Yeah, for sure.
know.
More and more because it is like more states need to do that. Like a few states still have deli style, which is sick. If you don't know what that is, like
I
back
love
in the
that.
day,
Yeah.
you could go and they'd be like, oh yeah, they'd bring you the jar. You could pick your fucking nugs, and I think that's pretty cool. Although like I'm totally I favor pre-pack, but it's still cool that people can check out the weed like in Detroit and Arizona has deli style. So are you guys planning on any new states?
I think for us, we just launched the new facility. We're trying to dial that in, and we've always kind of had a tortoise wins over the hare type
Definitely.
approach to expansion. But coming up here, I think in the future, we would really like to, go to maybe AZ, Texas,
Yeah, AZ
back
would be
into
good.
Nevada. I think that's kind of what we're looking
Us
at.
too,
in
man.
the
Who's
future.
gonna crack the Nevada market? What a fucking. Well, I never tried your guys' weed, so you could be an example from this. But what a boof town, dude.
I know, dude. Honestly,
Nevada, Las Vegas, nothing but
you
boof.
you guys would love Nevada. It's like, honestly, people are so starved of fire that
Yeah.
any Cali shop that knows how to do it just goes. And
We're looking.
it's still the third best price per eighth in the country.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. That's
Ohio's
fucking
kind of jumped up there recently.
good.
With
Ohio's
them going
interesting.
rig.
Where they got fives. You have to buy fives and tens. No
Yeah.
eighths and grams or
And-
sevens.
And it's kind of like the same. Like, any limited licensed state,
Yeah.
if you can get in there, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage if you know what you're doing.
All right, so this is the big question everyone wants to know. We only got 5 more minutes, but how the hell do you fucking do it? Give me your top 2 reasons for the success that you've seen in the California market.
So I think one of the things that we try to do back at the mothership is we really try to live in the future.
Love that.
So I think, the problem with legal weed is there's an obstacle around every corner. They're trying to change shit. All the odds are stacked against you. So if you can kind of live in the future and think about what's next, then you can gain an advantage for creating what you think there will automatically be demand for.
I love that.
I think another thing that we try to do, and this isn't the most popular opinion, and don't get me wrong, like, there needs to be major reform in this state,
100%.
from the regulatory
Yes.
scheme, and it seems almost like disturbingly they're tone deaf. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
they do not care.
But we try to just accept the factors of the game board
Yeah,
and not
that's what we
complain
do too,
about
man.
them. It is
That's
what
the
it is.
best way to do
Yeah.
it.
You
One of
know?
my buddies has a saying, and it's "We created the future yesterday," and that's exactly.
Love that. Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
What's next for CBX? You guys coming out with any new products people to look forward to?
Yeah, so I think, to close out the year, a couple new things and offerings that we're going to have. We just launched our pre-roll packs.
Yeah, those are sick. I love that.
Thank you, man. And kind of like our most popular flavors. And I think with the living in the future thing, we're trying to also like grasp not just the weed market, but the overall economy and kind of
Yeah.
provide people's favorite strains in a different form that might be a little bit more affordable and
Yeah,
things
for
like
sure.
that.
The price compression is real, man. But you guys also are one of the companies that have held that up. So, every single person that is in the industry should literally thank CBX for still being, an expensive weed, because that helps us all. Like, you don't understand. All these people out here selling
Thank
at
you, man.
$7 eighths, that affects you, because eventually that's just going to be the fucking price. So.
And I wish we had like a deeper vibe to have some sort of coalition.
We
or
should,
some shit,
we
you know what
should
I'm saying?
definitely have that.
Yeah.
Every single industry has
All
that.
the other industries
Cannabis
have
doesn't
that,
have
yeah.
that. We could have a lot of power if, we really came together. So one last thing. I heard you collect shoes.
I do. Yes,
Me too.
unfortunately.
No, that's
Not a lot
the
of closet
best,
space
dude.
left.
I know, right? That is true. I have 2 closets, and my bottom one now is filled up. I'm like, fuck. What's your grail?
I think in general, I like 3 pairs of shoes a lot. PlayStation Dunks.
Love them.
I think another one that is not as popular is the Ferris Bueller Dunk Highs.
I don't think I've seen those.
Yeah, they got like, the Ferris Bueller like leopard vest that he rocks.
sick.
They have laces like that and shit. And I think probably Dior Air Jordan 1s.
Yeah, those are super sick.
Yeah.
If you don't know sneakers, those are all 3 very, very. Those are real grails. Those are not just some kid stuff. Those are sick ones. All right. Well, thank you guys. That's our time. Thank you again for sitting with me for the 3rd fucking time, you guys. There wasn't. Yes. Anyway,
Thank you,
guys
Ted.
crushed
Thank you
it.
for
Thank
having
you so
me.
much. Thank
Really,
you,
really
Neema, man.
appreciate you,
Thanks
man.
for
Thank you.
inspiring brands like me. It is not easy. That I try to humble myself, but we have done a lot of shit. And there's like only a few brands that really inspire me. You guys are one of them.
Likewise,
and
my
I hope
guy.
you guys just continue to do that.
Likewise, my God. Thank you for having me.
You guys though, keep sitting. Let me take a picture, and then will somebody maybe? All right.
Thank you for having me, man. And likewise, we got tremendous amounts of respect and see you guys keep crushing it. And, got to keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks again. Thanks for joining up, man, and thank you all for listening.